The gray wolf is an apex predator. It sits at the top of the food chain in almost every ecosystem it inhabits. It hunts in coordinated packs, pursues prey over long distances, and has no natural predators of its own. For thousands of years, the gray wolf lived throughout North America, including in a 3,500 square mile stretch of wilderness in the northwest corner of Wyoming known as Yellowstone. Its role there was simple: hunt, feed, reproduce. What it was also doing, without any awareness of it, was holding an entire ecosystem in place. In the early 1900s, the United States government began a systematic program to eliminate wolves from Yellowstone. The reasoning was straightforward. Wolves killed livestock on ranches bordering the park. They competed with hunters for deer. They were seen as a problem with a simple solution. Between 1914 and 1926, every wolf in Yellowstone was killed. The last documented wolf pack in the park was eliminated in 1926. The ecosystem continued as normal, or so it appeared. Without wolves, the elk population in Yellowstone grew unchecked. Elk are grazers. They eat vegetation, grasses, shrubs, tree saplings. And without a predator controlling their movement, they grazed wherever food was most available. The most productive grazing areas were the river valleys, flat ground, rich soil, abundant vegetation along the water's edge. The elk stayed there, and they ate everything. Willows were stripped bare. Aspen saplings were consumed before they could establish. Cottonwood trees along the riverbanks, which had grown there for centuries, stopped regenerating. The existing trees aged and were not replaced. The process was slow, but it was consistent. Over 70 years, the riverbanks were stripped of vegetation. Without root systems holding the soil in place, the banks began to erode. Rivers widened, water levels dropped, temperatures rose, fish populations declined, songbirds lost nesting habitat, beavers, dependent on willows, disappeared from most of the park. The ecosystem was degrading, gradually, without a single visible cause. By the 1980s, ecologists had begun to connect the degradation of Yellowstone's ecosystem to the absence of wolves. A proposal was put forward to reintroduce gray wolves to the park under the Endangered Species Act. The proposal was contested. Ranchers whose land bordered Yellowstone opposed it. Hunting groups opposed it. Legal challenges delayed it for years. In January 1995, after more than a decade of debate, 14 wolves were captured in Alberta, Canada, transported to Yellowstone, and released. They were the first wolves in the park in 69 years. The wolves began hunting elk within days of their release, but the ecological impact of their return was not primarily about the number of elk they killed. It was about where the elk chose to go. Elk are prey animals. With wolves present, they began avoiding areas where they were vulnerable to attack. Open valleys, flat river corridors, exposed grazing land. They moved to higher ground, steeper terrain where they could observe predators at a distance. The valleys they had occupied for 70 years were largely abandoned. This shift in elk behavior, not elk population numbers, was what changed Yellowstone. Scientists refer to this as the ecology of fear. The presence of a predator alters the behavior of prey animals even when no direct predation is occurring. The threat alone is sufficient to reshape how and where animals move through a landscape. Within 2 years of wolf reintroduction, vegetation in the valley floors began to recover. Willow stands regenerated along riverbanks. Aspen and cottonwood saplings established themselves for the first time in decades. As the vegetation returned, other species followed. Songbird populations increased as nesting habitat recovered. Beaver colonies, which had been largely absent from the park, began to reestablish. Beaver dams created new ponds and wetland areas, providing habitat for otters, muskrats, and multiple species of waterfowl. Grizzly bears returned to feed on berries from recovering shrubs. Ravens and bald eagles fed on wolf kills. Each returning species created conditions that supported further recovery. Scientists documented the process in detail. What they were observing was a trophic cascade. a chain reaction through an ecosystem triggered by the reintroduction of a single apex predator. The wolves had not actively managed any of this. They had simply hunted elk. The rest followed automatically from the behavioral changes that hunting produced. The most documented consequence of wolf reintroduction in Yellowstone was its effect on the park's rivers. As vegetation recovered along riverbanks, root systems stabilized the soil. Erosion slowed. Banks that had been widening for decades began to consolidate. Rivers narrowed. Water depth increased. Flow rates changed. In several documented cases, rivers that had shifted course during the period of ecological degradation began to return toward their previous channels. The wolves had, through a chain of ecological consequences, altered the physical geography of the landscape. This was not predicted when the reintroduction program was designed. It was an emergent outcome, a consequence of consequences. The Yellowstone wolf reintroduction is now one of the most studied conservation interventions in history. What it demonstrated, beyond the recovery of a single ecosystem, is the concept of the keystone species. A keystone species is one whose presence or absence has a disproportionate effect on the ecosystem around it. Remove it and the system destabilizes. Reintroduce it and the system begins to self-correct. Wolves are one example. There are currently more than 200 large predator species globally that are classified as threatened or endangered. Each of these species occupies a position in its ecosystem, analogous to the position wolves occupied in Yellowstone. What those absences are producing, in terms of cascading ecological consequences, is largely unknown. Yellowstone provided a controlled, documented case study of what happens when an apex predator is removed from an ecosystem and then returned. Most ecosystems will not have that opportunity. If you found this useful, subscribe. We cover the natural world with the same level of detail in every video. Leave a comment if there is a specific ecosystem, animal, or conservation story you want us to cover next.